Okay, let's see this. This is 23 grammar. Expressing purpose with in order to and for. Notice the difference. Why did you go to the post office? I went to the post office because I wanted to mail a letter. In order to expresses purpose. It answers the question, why? Why did you go to the post office? Because I wanted to mail a letter. So we can say B. I went to the post office in order to mail a letter. Or we can say C. I went to the post office to mail a letter. In order is frequently omitted. A, B, and C have the same meaning. You see? Lot more words in A, even fewer words in B, and C we have the best solution. D, I went to this post office for some stamps. E, I went to the post office to buy some stamps. Notice the difference. For is used to express purpose, but it is a preposition and followed by a noun phrase. Some stamps, or you could say an object, some kind of object. Stamps for fun, something. It is incorrect to say I went to the post office to buy some stamps, just like it's incorrect to say I went to the post office for buying some stamps. If you have the enrollment, you can go to exercise 1 and 2. Let's look at the noun clause introduction. Here we have I in letter A. I is the subject, know is the verb, his address is the object. Verbs are often followed by objects. The object is usually a noun phrase. A noun phrase is the noun with any word that might be before it, an article, a possessive pronoun, determiner. It's words that make up the object. In A, his object is a noun phrase. His address is the object of the verb. No. It's the object of the verb know. Yes. What do I know? I know his address. B. Subject I. Verb know. O. Where he lives. Some verbs can be followed by noun clauses. In B, where he lives is a noun clause. Where he lives. He is a new subject. Lives is a new verb. We have two subjects, two verbs in the same sentence. Where he lives is the object of the verb to know. What do I know? I know where he lives. C. I know where he lives. A noun clause has its own subject and a verb. In C, he is the subject of the noun clause. Lives is the verb of the noun clause. You see? He lives. We have that inside the noun clause. Now keep in mind that this is a dependent clause. It depends on I know. I know is the main clause, the main phrase. D. I know where my book is. A noun clause can begin with a question word. Where my book is. Can begin, okay? E. I don't know if Ed is married. A noun clause can begin with if or whether. If and whether in these kinds of sentences are the same. I don't know whether Ed is married. This is not weather like rainy, sunny, cold, and wet. This is weather like if. It has an H. It has two H's, actually. F. I know that the world is round. A noun clause can begin with that. I know that the world is round. That initiates this noun clause. What do I know? I know that the world is round. Phrase is a group of related words. It does not contain a subject and a verb. A phrase. A clause is a group of related words. It contains a subject and a verb. Okay, that's not so important. Let's look at a little bit more with this indirect question, because indirect questions are another word for noun clause. Indirect questions are similar to reporting speech. The reporting verb is usually ask, but you can also use a question to introduce the indirect question. If the indirect question asks for information, you will find the question word in the middle of the sentence. In the middle. Could you tell me where I can get a ticket? Where is the question word, but look, it's in the middle of the question. Could you tell me is a real question. This has auxiliary, subject, and infinitive order. If the indirect question asks for a yes-no answer, you will find if in the middle of the sentence. Do you know if the last train has left? If the last train has left is the indirect question, because the indirect question responds to the question, has the last train left? Yes, it has. No, it hasn't. So it's a yes-no question. Do you know is the real question, and do you know is also a yes-no question. In a real question, the word order is kasi. Students, this is very, very important. You have to get this into your head. Kasi, 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 question word. Who, what, when, where, why, how much, how many, which, a lot of alternatives here, but question word first. Notice here that we don't have the question word in the beginning, we have it in the middle. That's how you know that that is not a real question, because a real question must start with a question word if it's about information. Okay, if it doesn't have a question word, regardless, you're going to find the auxiliary verb to be, do, did, will, can, shall, would, etc., etc., etc. All of those auxiliaries are either the first word in a information question or the second word in a question with question words. Question word, auxiliary, subject. And then we have infinitive. In progressive structures, we're going to see the verb plus ing. In the perfect, we will see the verb plus ed, or the third form, but this is really a very, very big success if you can remember this. Okay, kasi, good way to remember the order. Where do you work? Where is the question word? Auxiliary do. You is the subject. Work is infinitive. Notice that how did they know? Know is the infinitive. We know that this is in the past because of the auxiliary, right? This is the present. This is the past. Not by conjugating the verb. We do not conjugate the verbs in the question. When can we begin? Question word, auxiliary, here's the auxiliary can. We is the subject, begin is the infinitive. What are you doing? What is the auxiliary? Question word. Are is the auxiliary in this case for the verb with the ing form. Okay, this is not the infinitive, but it is the verb in the ing form. When the question is a yes-no question, we can eliminate the question word. Okay, but asi always remains. Do you speak French? In an indirect question, the order is like a normal question. Question word, subject, and verb. In a real question, you have question, subject, and verb without the auxiliary. Could you tell me where you went? Notice we have the question word, then we have subject, and then we have the verb. Okay, so this is the order in an indirect question. Question word, subject, verb. Just like a normal affirmative. In a real question, we have could you tell me where we went, where you went? The real question, if, is subject and verb. I'm sorry. The real question is here, could you tell me? And then we have if, and then we have the noun clause, the indirect question. Do you know if they paid? You see, if they paid, we have if, and then the subject, and then the verb. So this is an indirect question. The real question is, do you know? If you have access, you can do exercise 6 and 7. Let's look at a few other points of grammar here. Most of, a number of, and the number of. Okay, when speaking in general, you can use most to refer to a quantity of an unspecific group of people or things. I'm just going to make that a little more. Okay, most accidents happen in the home. The major part of accidents in general, most accidents, I'm talking about accidents in general. Instead, if you are speaking specifically, you should use most with an of. This limits the number to a specific group or a subgroup of a general group. Most of them could easily be avoided. Them refers to a subgroup of all accidents. Look at the difference. Most accidents, I'm talking about every accident that can possibly happen in the most general sense. When I talk about most of them, I'm talking about the accidents. All accidents, I'm talking about most of all accidents, could easily be avoided. Similarly, a number of refers to a specific number of a quantity of a group of people or things. The verb is always singular. A number of students are present for the exam. So we're talking about a certain number of students. So this is a singular. The number of. The verb is not always singular. This is plural. Sorry, it's exactly the opposite. It's always singular. And let's just move this down here. So it's always plural. That's, sorry, a little mistake there. No problem, we'll take care of it. Number of students are present. The verb is always plural. The number, specific number, refers to an unspecific number of quantity of a group of people or things. So the verb is always singular. The number of students is important for the exam. The number, we're talking about a specific number, okay? Even though it says an unspecific number of the group, of the quantity, it is the actual subject is specific. Okay, let's look at the present perfect. Okay, if you have questions about the present perfect, you might have to go back to the A2 course, look at units 17, 18, and 19. We'll just review the present perfect here in any case. They have moved into a new apartment. B, have you ever visited Mexico? C, I have never seen snow. D, I have already seen that movie. E, Jack hasn't seen it yet. F, Anne started a new book last month, but she still hasn't finished it. G, Alex feels bad. He has just heard some bad news. The present perfect expresses an idea that something happened or never happened before now, at an unspecific time in the past. The exact time it happened is not important. Look at the chart here. We have the present and we have something that happened in the past and it is linked to the present. I don't know when. I don't know. If there is a specific mention of time, the simple past is used. They moved into a new apartment last month. Notice in the examples the adverbs ever, never, already, yet, still, so far, and just are frequently used with the present perfect. Okay, if you use these adverbs, pay attention. These are usually used with the present perfect. Okay, we have had 4 tests so far this semester. I have written my wife a letter every day for the last 2 weeks. J, I have met many people since I came here in June. And K, I have flown on an airplane many times. Okay, now H, I, J, and K, we have the idea of many times. This thing happening different times, but we don't know exactly when. Okay, present perfect also expresses the repetition of an activity before now. The exact time of each repetition is not important. So I have flown on a plane many times, many times. It's not important when that happened. You see, I'm not talking about a specific event in the past. I'm talking about something that is happened before now and an unspecific time. Present perfect. Okay, let's look at L, I have been here since 7 o'clock. M, we have been here for 2 weeks. N, I have had this same pair of shoes for 3 years. O, I have liked cowboy movies ever since I was a child. P, I have known him for many years. Repeat these sentences. These are key sentences, okay? Repeat them. The present perfect, when used with for, and since, also expresses a situation that began in the past and continues to the present. In the examples, notice the difference between since and for. Since is a particular point in time, since 7 o'clock, since I was a child. For is a duration of time, a period. For 2 weeks, for 3 years, for many years. Those are periods, okay? If you have access, you can do exercise 9 and 10. Let's continue to look at the present perfect. A, I have finished my work. B, the students have finished chapter 3. C, Jim has eaten lunch. We have the statement have, has, plus the past participle, the third form of the verb. Have finished, have eaten, has eaten, has is third person singular. The contraction, I've, you've, we've, they've eaten lunch. E, she's, he's eaten lunch. F, it's been cold for the last 3 days. The pronoun have can be contracted to v. The pronoun has in the third person singular can be contracted to s. Repeat these sentences. I haven't finished my work. Anne hasn't eaten lunch. In the negative, we put not between the auxiliary, have, has, and the past participle. The contraction, have not, becomes haven't. Has not becomes hasn't. Have you finished your work? J, has Jim eaten lunch? K, how long have you lived here? In the question, have, has, plus the subject, plus the past participle. Okay, in a way, this is always Aussie. You have the auxiliary, you have the subject, and then instead of having the infinitive, you have the past participle. L, have you seen that movie? Yes, I have, or no, I haven't. M, has Jim eaten lunch? Yes, he has, or no, he hasn't. In the short answer, have, haven't, or has, hasn't. The helping verb in the short answer is not contracted with the pronoun. We do not say, yes, I've, or yes, he's. We say, yes, he has. Okay, it's not contracted. Okay, it's cold today. It is. That also is with an S. It's the same. It's been cold since December. It has. This is has. This is it. They are both possible. You have to understand the difference. Okay, how do we understand the meaning of the present perfect? Okay, look at these two pictures. Jim has eaten lunch. Anne hasn't eaten lunch. Okay, now let's look at this picture a little closer. We can see there is evidence that the lunch is finished in Jim's case. In Anne's case, instead, she has her tray and she is looking for a place to sit. She is starting to eat, so she hasn't eaten. So it's something that happened before now, or something that didn't happen, hasn't happened, like in Anne's case. Jim has already eaten lunch. This is a time before now, but we don't know exactly when he ate. It's not important. Anne hasn't eaten lunch yet. She hasn't eaten. That experience has not happened up to the present. Maybe she will start eating lunch in 1 second. But when I speak, she hasn't eaten lunch yet. Have you ever eaten at the restaurant? Have you ever eaten is the question. So I'm asking about if that has ever happened. The present perfect expresses an activity or situation that occurred or did not occur before now at some unspecific time in the past. In A, Jim's lunch occurred before the present time. The exact time is not mentioned. It is unimportant or unknown. For the speaker, the only important information is that Jim's lunch occurred in the past, sometime before now. He wants to render this idea present. That's why it's called present perfect. Not because it is happening in the present, but because the event or the situation has some link with the present. Pete has eaten at that restaurant many times. You see, it's before now. He's eaten 1, 2, 3. I have eaten there twice. An activity may be repeated several more times before now at unexpected times in the past, as in B, D as in C, D and E, Pete and I. Let's look at the second meaning of present perfect. The situation began in the past and continues to the present. Now, this is a little more difficult because I don't want you to think too much about continuing. Continuing, that's progressive, okay? But you can use this idea to help you to understand the present perfect. You see, if I look at now, I have 10 a.m., the action is in progress. Right now I'm speaking and I say we have been in class since 10 o'clock this morning. Or I have known Ben for 10 years. I met him 10 years ago. I still know him today. We are friends. So both of these actions, to be in class, we are in class, or to know Bob, really are still continuing. These are continuous ideas, but they're not continuous verbs. When the present perfect is used with since and for, it expresses situations that began in the past and continue to the present. Class started at 10. We're still in class at the moment of speaking. We are in class since 10 o'clock this morning is not a good sentence because we are is the present tense. I cannot use since with the present tense. It's just not compatible. Okay, what's the difference between the simple past and the present perfect? The simple past, I finished my work two hours ago, A, and the present perfect, B, I have already finished my work. In A, I finished my work at a specific time in the past, 2 hours ago. In B, I finished my work at an unspecific time in the past, some time before now. Is that clear? I hope so. Simple past. I was in Europe last year, 3 years ago, in 1999, in 1995, in 1999, when I was 10 years old. The simple past expresses an activity that occurred at a specific time or times in the past, as in A and C. I finished my work 2 hours ago and I was. Present perfect, I have been in Europe many times, several times, a couple of times, once, or just no mention of the time. Present perfect expresses an activity that occurred at an unspecific time or times in the past. Okay, that is quite clear now, unspecific. Simple past, Anne was in Miami for 2 weeks. In sentence E, where for is used in a time expression, the simple past expresses an activity that began and ended in the past. For 2 weeks, this action is terminated. She was in Miami. She certainly is not in Miami now. And I'm telling you that she was in Miami for 2 weeks, but that's finished. Instead, in F, Bob has been in Miami for 2 weeks, or Bob has been in Miami since May the 1st. In this sentence, for or since, the present perfect expresses an activity that began in the past and continues to the present. If you have access, you can do exercise 12. Okay, let's look at since and for, and then we'll stop. Okay, I have been here since 8 o'clock, since Tuesday, since May, since 1999, since January 3rd, 2001, since yesterday, since last month. Since is followed by the mention of a specific time in the pointed time, an hour, a day, a month, a year. Since expresses the idea that something began at a specific time in the past and continues to the present, or it is linked to the present. Correct. I have lived here since May. Correct. I have lived here. I have been here since May. The present perfect is used with sentences with since. C, incorrect. I'm living here since May. In C, the present progressive is not used with since. We cannot use since with the present progressive. Incorrect. I live here since May. Wrong. The simple present is not used with since. We just don't understand it. I live here since May. It's not English. Incorrect. E, I lived here since May. Simple past, no. I was here since May, no. Simple past is not used. I lived here since May. I don't understand. Since may also introduce a time clause. A subject and a verb may follow since. Notice the examples in F and G. The present perfect is used in the main clause. The simple past is used in the since clause. Okay, the main clause, I have lived here, and the since clause, since I was a child, since I was. We have a new subject and a new verb. G, Al has met many people since he came here. The since clause, since he came. This is a new subject and a new verb. Okay, 4, I have been here for 10 minutes. I have been here for 2 hours, for 2 days, for about 2 weeks, for almost 6 months, for many years, for a long time. 4 is followed by the mention of a length of time. 2 minutes, 3 hours, 4 days, 5 weeks, etc. If the noun ends in S, hours, days, weeks, use for in the time expression, not since. Okay, so 3 days, 4 minutes, those are all periods, right? I have lived here for 2 years. I moved here 2 years ago, and I still live here. So this is still present. The use of the present perfect in a sentence with for and a length of time means that the action began in the past and continues to the present. I would say that it's linked to the present. I still live here. It's true. I lived in Athens for 2 years. I don't live in Athens now. The use of the simple past with for means that the action began and ended in the past. I already mentioned that.